Teamster Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224. Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. Are you graduating high school soon and wondering what to do next? College is one option, but why not consider the high-paying jobs made possible by union power? Labor Union Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get you into the high school to high-paying job pipeline. You'll learn all the skills needed to excel in opportunities across industries. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting Teamsters1932.org/organize to start today.
Are you looking for a good union job? The Inland Empire's 14,000 member strong Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get working people trained and placed in open positions in public service clerical work and in jobs in the logistics industry. This is a new opportunity to advance your career and raise standards across the region. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, inviting you to listen to my show during the noon hour every weekday right here on KCAA. My show is sponsored locally by Teamsters 1932, a strong union with 14,000 members in the IE. Our message is clear. Unions improve the lives of working people. You have a right to form and join a union, so go to Teamsters1932.org and get started now. Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting Teamsters1932.org/organize to start today.
Plastic recycling.
Exactly.
Yet they still get to be in business. Go figure. For much more on all of these stories, though I'm still thinking about those dead bodies in Vegas, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com.
Are you tired of think tank approved corporate news and commentary? Are you tired of CEOs telling you what to think, who to hate, and who to vote for? Well, welcome to the Rick Smith Show. We don't take orders from some boardroom, and we don't do focus groups or talking points. We don't work for them, and we never will. I'm Rick Smith, and I work for you. Join us daily at thericksmithshow.com and download the podcast and never miss a minute.
It's time for the Rick Smith Show.
Here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Going to spend most of the day talking about something that happened last week that I thought was really, really important. Senator Sanders and the Budget Committee held a hearing that I thought every working person should have paid attention to. The Senate Banking Committee should have watched. And it was asking the question, should taxpayer dollars go to companies that violate labor laws? And just reflexively, I think every person, and every sane, thoughtful, rational, working person should go, well, of course not. Well, of course we should not reward companies for doing bad things to workers. Of course we shouldn't. Of course not. We shouldn't reward bad actors who break the law. Why would we do such a thing? But sadly, on the labor law front, we have gotten, well down the line of allowing corporate America, and we're talking, big corporate America, to beat their employees and get away with it, and browbeat them, and all the kind of things that we've talked about over the years. That seems, hey, it's how we've always done things. And a little bit later, we'll talk about more of how we used to do things. But I thought the hearing was important in that you had Senator Sanders on one side. I mean, it was an incredible moment of political theater played out, just in this little hour and a half hearing where you had Senator Sanders, who vocally in support of unions and workers' rights to join and form unions, and the power of unions to make lives better and lift conditions and all of the things that we talk about on this program: better wages, hours, conditions, dignity, respect, all that stuff. And then on the other side, you had Lindsey Graham, who all bad. Lindsey Graham, who rose-colored glasses, how no one wants to join unions. That's the reason that numbers are down. It's not that corporate America holds these captive audience meetings and intimidates them and all the things that we know that goes on. No, it's because choice. And it was interesting to watch that. And then in the middle, you had Tim Kaine, who was like, "Oh, everyone, can't we just get along?" It was just this kind of weird moment where, people love Amazon. Yeah, there's some things maybe, but people in Virginia love them because, hey, they're going to bring jobs to, and I lost the whole train of thought. But it was interesting to watch, and this is why Democrats have a problem. Because I want the Democratic Party to be full-throated support of working people, to stand up for their right to organize, to stand up for their right to fight for better wages, hours, conditions, to fight for their share of the wealth that their labor creates. Now, the surprise in this, I mean, if there had to be a surprise twist to this political theater that was going on in the Senate Banking Committee, it was Senator Mike Braun from Indiana. Now, Mike Braun is an ultra-conservative, far-right kind of senator. Policy-wise, almost nothing I agree with him on. But he showed up, now against the idea of organizing Amazon, an anti-union guy, for sure, going to vote against the PRO Act, going to vote against, things that are going to help workers. His vote going to be there because he's a Republican after all, and that's kind of where the Republican caucus has to be. Even if individually he may not be horribly against it. And this is what's wrong with our political system. It's that kind of pack mentality that ends up being part of what goes on. But Braun went into when he was running a business, and he let the secret out of the bag. And this is where any union organizer will tell you, we wouldn't need unions if employers learned certain lessons. Employers can ensure that there will never be a union in the workplace. And if there are employers out there listening, I'm going to give the secret away. Because Mike Braun, the senator from Indiana, he talked about it. He said when he employed people, he gave them the best wages possible, the highest wages possible, the best health care benefits possible, the best retirement possible, made them part of the family. He made them part of the family. And this is where the divide between huge multinational corporations, behemoths like Amazon, like Walmart, these giant, where you're just a number on a balance sheet, and the small mom and pop on Main Street. This is where the difference is. And I've always talked about the difference. And when people go, you're anti-business, I go, no, I'm not anti-business. I'm very pro-business. I'm pro mom and pop. I'm pro small business. I'm pro local community. I'm pro worker and management working together. That's not what goes on in these big conglomerates. That's not what goes on in these big monster corporations where you're just a number. And you know that as well as I do. And Braun was saying, look, these were part of the family. So when someone was struggling, he saw their struggle. He was part of that struggle. And he even hit on something that I've talked about a million times, the fact that CEO pay is through the roof. The reason Sanders focused on Bezos is Bezos is one of the richest people in the history of this country. And you've got workers there who are, well, homeless. You've got people there who are working for, what are, by today's standards, okay wages, but historically substandard. And I found this hearing interesting in that Braun was the guy who brought this and said, look, yeah, absolutely, we need better wages, hours, conditions. We need to go after CEO pay. And you go, wait a second, how you're the ultra-conservative, right-wing, anti-union vote, and you're talking our language. This is where there's common ground. Because I look at something like this hearing, and you go, no, not a dime should be going to Amazon. And yet what we know is that we're going to give them $10 billion of taxpayer money for cloud services, and they're spending millions of dollars on union busting campaigns. We know that. We know they're going to continue to violate labor law, and we know that our laws are going to be ineffective to stop them, at least for now. And this is where it comes back to you and me. It comes back to us. Now, sadly, it didn't get as many headlines. This hearing didn't get the headlines that I wanted, because there were some really great moments. Right at the beginning, you had Lindsey Graham going after Sanders, attacking him for, having the hearing at all. And, Christian Smalls, one of the people who testified, the president of the Amazon Labor Union, before he started into his prepared remarks, went back after Graham and said, hey, look, you forget that the people are the ones who make these companies operate. He said, when we're not protected, the process for when we hold these companies accountable is not working for us, then that's the reason we're here today. I think it's in your best interest to realize it's not a left or right thing. It's not a Democrat or Republican thing. It's a worker issue. And we're the ones that are suffering. You should listen, because we do represent your constituents as well. This is the important part, and this is what was should have been the glaring headline, and was, and something I talk about all the time. This isn't a political issue. This isn't right left. This is up down. This is the very well-to-do and the wealth class against everybody else. It is that 99% versus the 1% frame on steroids. And Christian Smalls highlights that. Look, this isn't a Democrat or Republican thing. This is a worker thing. This is a low-wage thing. This is a poor working conditions thing. This is a safety thing. And when Sean O'Brien testified, the new president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, he went after it as well. He said, look, it's the job of the federal government to encourage collective bargaining, to encourage worker organizing, not to allow companies to beat up on workers for pursuing their, for now, legally protected right to fight for better wages, hours, conditions. And he talked about, look, there was the Strategic Organizing Center put out a report not too long ago. In fact, we had their executive director on our program not too long ago, talking about that the Amazon facilities have almost a double injury rate of any warehouse facility in the country. They are leading the industry by almost double in the number of injuries. And you go, well, that's just because, well, it's a tough job. Yeah, it's a tough job because of how they work people to the bone. And if you listen to the stories of these workers, which is why I thought what Christian Smalls did at Amazon in New York, the JFK 8 facility, was so important. And I think it is the model of organizing we need to return to. And I say return to because this is what I've been talking about for a very long time. It's how my grandparents' generation built their unions. It was person to person, neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, coworker to coworker. It was being part of a community. It wasn't a business model. It wasn't something that was. It was your circle. It was part of your community identity. The union hall was the center of that. It's where people got married. It's where they celebrated births. It's where they grieved. The union hall was the center. It was like the church. It was the center of the community. And corporate America has done a very nice job of dividing and pulling us apart in those ways. And I like what they did at JFK 8. I like what those workers did with the Amazon labor union. Because they were internal organizers. They didn't drop people in. The workers themselves, they were empowered. And this is what we talk about, empowering you and me, empowering workers to know your rights and to stand up and speak them, which is why, again, I think the victory in Amazon was such a big one and so important. And the reason that we're having these kind of hearings, because of the attention that victory brought and the stories that came out of it. I mean, that's the amazing part of this. The stories that you hear from these folks about the working conditions and the constant surveillance and the constant harassment. And this isn't how it should be. And Teamsters President O'Brien talked about that. He said, look, they've got these delivery service providers. They're basically, you're your own boss. You get a van and you make your deliveries and you're your own boss. They don't actually work for Amazon, but they got the name on the side. They have to follow their rules. They're surveilled constantly with all kind of electronic monitoring. How fast they're going, where they're going, how many left turns they make, right down to what kind of eye movements they're making. But they don't work for Amazon. You don't work for the company. You're your own boss. But they're gonna gather all of the data and all of that from those people. And by the way, the quote unquote your own boss person takes on all the risk. And what Sean O'Brien was saying is, look, those are Teamster industries. Amazon is taking down what are good family sustaining wage jobs in industries that the Teamsters represent, in warehouses, in logistics, in trucking, and delivery. And we're at this moment, and why I think this is important, why this hearing was so important, is the future of this country depends on the decisions that we made yesterday and the ones that we're making today. And if this kind of business model is allowed to continue and thrive and take with it all of the middle class employment that it's already destroyed and take down all the mom and pop businesses on Main Street, it's going to be a very long future for working people, especially, legislatively, as we're not moving legislation to help workers organize, as we have a judicial system that seems hell-bent on moving us back towards the days of the Lochner era, or if you're hungry enough and desperate enough to work for poverty wages in desperate conditions, that's your right, kind of like these you're your own boss gig economy jobs. The future, not bright for working people unless we organize and grab back the power that workers have. And this is that moment, and which is why I think it's important. It's important to take a look at this bit of political theater. Well worth the time, and we're going to get some links out on social media on how folks can take a look at that. Going to take a quick break. On the other side, I got some stories to talk about, some organizing victories going on, some exciting stuff. I also want to thank our good friends at Teamsters Local 1932 for being our exclusive sponsor for this hour. If you have any thoughts, comments, you want to check out their work, Teamsters1932.org, their website. Going to take a quick break, right back on the other side. If you're just joining us, make sure you download the podcast. Never miss a moment of the work that we do. Also, you can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break, right back after this. Stick around. Labor unions built the middle class, and the middle class built America. That's the message from Teamsters Local 1932, a strong and successful labor union based in San Bernardino that represents over 14,000 hardworking people across the Inland Empire. The Teamsters are ready to help you organize for better pay, increased benefits, and improved working conditions. Reach out to Teamsters 1932 at teamsters1932.org/organize to speak with an organizer today.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So there have been some really big labor stories coming out here the last couple of days. You know, just since last August, think about this for a second. Since last August, when 3 Starbucks stores in Buffalo, New York, decided that they would file for union elections with the NLRB, there has been a flurry of organizing going on at Starbucks. I mean, the floodgates have opened, and well, I mean, there are now more than 50 that have won elections. There are reportedly more than 250 that are in the pipeline to have elections, and they've got a win rate so far of over 85%. I mean, the floodgates are open there. I mean, just over the weekend, I saw wins in Ohio, Massachusetts, New York, Florida, Virginia, all across the country. And hopefully there will be a critical moment where Starbucks kind of steps back and goes, maybe we should stop. Maybe we should stop our union busting. Maybe we should stop trying to do what we're doing, because clearly it's not working. And look, as I said, a long time ago, steal a quote from my grandfather. When a rich guy takes a buck out of his pocket to tell you don't need something, you spend 2 to get it, because they understand return on investment. And this. You got rich guy Howard Schultz, who, interestingly enough, and this is one of those weird things, again, back to my political divide. It's not a Republican or a Democrat thing. It's a worker thing. Howard Schultz was slated to be Hillary Clinton's labor secretary. How scary would that have been, given the fact that he has done everything he can do to bust up the organizing that's going on there? But this is this moment where you go, organizing is contagious. Winning is contagious. And if you look at what's going on at Starbucks, I think Howard Schultz will tell you there's a pandemic of organizing going on there at Starbucks, and that is good. Look, got a friendly administration that's going to be helpful, and it could get a little bit easier. For workers to organize and win better wages, hours, conditions, dignity, respect, all the things that we talk about, because just the other day, the National Labor Relations Board, evidently, a regional director filed a sweeping complaint against Starbucks, alleging that they violated federal labor law more than 200 times in the Buffalo campaigns. This could be enormous, because now the general counsel, Jennifer Abruzio, she wants to go back and make these captive audience meetings illegal, to stop them, because they should be. You should not have to endure listening to hours on end of union busters try and deceive and lie to you about unions and not give the other side, because they say, well, companies have a right to make their case. And I go, yeah, they do that on day one. In fact, I think Christian Smalls in the hearing said it best when he goes, on day one, before you even know what your job is, they're inundating you with anti-union propaganda. Your first day, there's a video on how bad unions are. So you're being indoctrinated right from the start. They're propagandizing from the beginning. Why do they then need to beat you up even more? And my argument has always been, if you're a decent employer, You don't even need to bring up the dreaded U word. Just be a good company. Be good to people. Don't cheat them. Don't give them crummy benefits, and definitely don't create an industry where you're double the injury rate of everybody else. Create that world that Mike Braun was talking about, where you pay superior wages, where you make workers part of the family, part of the business, and reward them by making them part of it and making them, well, believe the rhetoric of, hey, there's an open door. Sadly, when there's an open door policy, sometimes they slam it on you on the way out. That's the sad reality. Now, here's the thing. With this, Starbucks may have to stop their union busting campaigns. Now, look, they got lots of money. They'll figure out how to do other tactics. But this is pretty impressive. Also, the NLRB is saying, the folks in Brooklyn, New York are saying, at the Amazon place, Amazon, you violated the labor law by doing the same thing. And they're pushing Amazon to agree not to hold these anymore. Now, it's interesting. I love the Amazon defense. This is my favorite. My favorite part of all of this is Amazon's defense. Their defense is, but we've always been able to beat up our workers. Why is now any different? We were always able to hold captive. We've been doing this for decades. Why now? Well, now because people are finally paying attention to just how bad it's been. Now they finally got a group of workers who aren't afraid to stand up. And look, I think the Amazon labor union people figured out how to beat these captive audience meetings. In fact, when you listen to the worker organizers, tell their stories, Amazon made it, virtually impossible for the worker organizers to be in these. They were excluding people because they knew that those workers, knew their rights. They were going after the most vulnerable. And that's what these union busters do. And this is the reason why, again, I think we do need major comprehensive labor law reform to make it easier. And I think this is a step towards doing it. But both of these two companies, giants in their industry, Amazon and Starbucks, both giants in name brand, giants in how the public feels about them, they're the examples in this moment. And while Lindsey Graham was all upset saying, well, you think, Amazon's a bad company. Yeah, they treat their employees poorly. This is a moment that you can make an example. And Amazon can turn this around. They can do the Mike Braun thing. They can treat their workers better. They can. See how easy that is? It's pretty simple. But you have to question whether they will. Now, again, this is one of the wealthiest companies in the country. They pay almost no taxes whatsoever. They could use that money that we give them in tax breaks. Instead of, buying stocks back, they can give it to their workers. Seems sane, seems rational to me. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Tell me what you think. Got any questions, comments? rick@thericksmithshow.com. That's where you send the emails. Hate mail goes to the top. I like that first. I also want to thank our exclusive sponsors, Teamsters Local 1932, for sponsoring our program. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, Greg Leroy is going to be here from Good Jobs First, going to explain what he had to do at the big hearing last week. Back after this with Greg.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1934. That was the day the West Coast Maritime Strike began. It was an historic strike that shut down the major ports along the Pacific coast. The strike also coincided with the pivotal Minneapolis Teamster strike and the Toledo Autolite strike. From Seattle to San Diego, longshoremen walked off the job. Harry Bridges led the Albion Hall Caucus in San Francisco. They demanded higher wages, shorter hours, and union representation. They also demanded a coast-wide agreement and a union hiring hall to replace the hated daily shape-up. Longshoremen were fed up with the gangster-run company union that controlled the arbitrary day labor hiring on the docks. From the pages of the Waterfront Worker newsletter, militant longshoremen took on the shippers, the government, craft unionism, and racism of the union. On the first day of the strike, dozens of black longshoremen joined the union and convinced others not to scab. Soon, all unions on the docks walked out in solidarity. By May 15th, the West Coast ports were completely shut down and 25,000 were out on strike by the end of the month. In his book, Workers on the Waterfront, Bruce Nelson notes the qualities that made the strike a success. He points to the militancy and discipline required to stand up to the National Guard during the deadly Maine battle on July 5th. The workers' solidarity across craft lines necessary for the San Francisco general strike that followed, a defiant rank-and-file independence, and the understanding that intensive red baiting could only serve the bosses. Though workers were forced back to work through arbitration, they were awarded their demands that fall. It would take more job actions to make those awards a reality. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
Nearly every nation with an advanced economy, and some not so advanced, treats child care as a fundamental public good, essential to nurturing children, families, and the whole society. But not our U.S. of A. Indeed, our so-called leaders relegate millions of working parents and 21 million kids under 5 to the tender mercies of a for-profit market, with child care facilities ranging from impossibly expensive to helter-skelter unlicensed kiddie corrals. Embarrassingly, while right-wingers mindlessly salute the U.S. as exceptional, they fail to note that what's exceptional about our child care system is that it's such a shambles it can't even be called a system, much less caring. For the past decade, independent journalist and economic analyst Bryce Covert has documented the worsening social crisis caused by this abject failure of leadership. 2/3 of our pre-K kids have both parents in the workforce, meaning care outside the home is essential. 85% of the parents say that finding quality, affordable child care in their area is a problem somewhere between serious and impossible. Nationwide, the annual cost for a 4-year-old's daycare averages about $13,000. Despite millions of working families finding this essential service unaffordable or even unavailable, political leaders have ignored their plight. Child care aid reaches only 15% of qualified kids. Some callous governors even divert chunks of federal child care subsidies to their own political priorities, such as corporate welfare. In 2017, even before COVID-19 abruptly shut down thousands of care centers, 40% of America's children lived in child care deserts, zip codes with 0 programs or so few that 2/3 or more of the area's children are unable to get in. This is Jim Hightower saying, is this the best we can do for the future of our nation?
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So again, I go back to the Sanders Banking Committee hearing question. And really, it's a simple question. Should taxpayer dollars be going to companies that violate labor law? I mean, to me, pretty simple. If you violate any law, no. The answer should be really simple. But it was interesting to me that some of the people were justifying, no, we can't stop companies from abusing their workers because it would be bad for whatever made-up reason. And here to share some thoughts on, why we shouldn't be giving corporate America tax dollars when they abuse their workers or break, or just break any law. We'll start there. I've asked Greg Leroy to come and talk with us. Greg is the executive director of Good Jobs First, their website, goodjobsfirst.org. Greg, thanks for taking time for us.
Great to be with you, Rick.
So let's start right there with that question. Should we be rewarding companies for bad behavior by breaking laws, and labor laws, or any law for that matter?
No, look, we shouldn't be giving public dollars to companies that break laws, especially labor laws. Labor laws sort of get short shrift here, right? Because if you look at the criteria that states and the feds use to, the word is debar companies from contracts, it's like being delinquent on your taxes. It's like underperforming on your contract or knowingly, hiding information about your business. Well, why isn't cheating people's paychecks or making an unsafe workplace or firing people illegally equivalent to that? That's what we're saying. You know, what are we, chopped liver? Are labor law violations, they don't matter anymore? They should matter just as much as all these other kinds of things that can cause companies to get debarred. That's what we're really saying at this hearing. And especially for a company like Amazon that has just got so many kinds of public money baked into its business plan.
Yeah. Now, Lindsey Graham, obviously right from the start went off on why you're only singling out poor Amazon. I don't single out poor Amazon. I don't think any company should get money, but Amazon kind of is the behemoth. They are kind of the cancer that has infected our entire employment system and is changing things so rapidly. I don't think most of us really grasp, how badly the damage is going to shake out in the coming years.
That's right. I mean, as I said in the hearing, if you look at the issue of sort of corporate welfare at the state and local level, there isn't a company I can think of more aggressive right now in that space. 10 years ago in March, Amazon opened a so-called economic development office, which was really a tax break getting office. And since then, it's been averaging about 20 deals a year. That is awards by states and cities. Last year alone, they totaled more than $700 million. We know that the company has a corporate goal of $1 billion a year. I apologize for my phone ringing there. $1 billion a year in tax breaks. And we know they're getting more than 700 million because some of the breaks are not fully disclosed.
Yeah.
So it's real.
No, I mean, I go back to the H2Q thing, that whole debacle of searching for another headquarters and the scam that was. And look, right from the beginning, I said this is a massive ripoff of the taxpayer. It's a massive information gathering system that every community across this country just gave away, cost free to them and cost us taxpayers huge amounts of money. In fact, we don't even get to know what kind of data was handed over. And Amazon was never going to Dubuque, Iowa. They were never going to Pittsburgh. They were going exactly where they went. They were going to Washington, D.C., New York City, and Virginia area. That's where they were going to end up. And everyone knew it, but they toyed with every community across this country, dangling that carrot of, hey, we're going to bring some moderate paying jobs to your neighborhood. Just give us all your information.
Yeah, American economic development was set back for a year for HQ2, right? People in economic development agencies all over the country, in Frisco and Fresno and every place in between, wasted months and huge amounts of money on special websites, on proposals. They set aside everything else they were doing in many cases, delaying deals, delaying planning, delaying progress. It was a terrible exercise in just sheer power, not to mention, as you said, hoovering up all this information for future real estate deals.
Now, for my friends in Dubuque and in Pittsburgh, I love the area. I'm not putting down the area, but the reality is Amazon was never coming. They were never putting their headquarters there. It was not going to happen. And they proved it to us in the end. In fact, I was saying that all during the whole debacle that it was. But in looking at this, and again, you go back to the organizing campaigns that are going on, and the testimony of Christian Smalls, the president of the Amazon Labor Union, which I thought he did a great job putting Lindsey Graham in his place, saying, look, this isn't a political thing. This is a worker thing, which I think we as working people need to get back to. We got to get out of this my team kind of sport mentality of D or R or red shirt or blue shirt and get back to putting on jeans and a t-shirt and rolling up our sleeves and getting back to work.
I love that exchange, and I really tip my hat to Christian Smalls for setting his testimony aside for about half the 5 minutes he had and just responding to the outrageous things that Senator Graham had said. And that was the crackling moment in the hearing, frankly. And I didn't think Graham came back very well either.
Yeah, I mean, but it does go to show, Greg, that our laws are broken. We're in a place where there needs to be something. Because I talk to workers all the time. We're saying, look, I would love to organize. I would love to have a union here. I would love to get the better wages, the better health care, the better retirement security. I would love to have security on all the things that we talk about and that people know unions are able to deliver. I would love to do that, but I just don't want to walk the gauntlet of corporate harassment. I don't want to have to go through the captive audience meetings, the threats, the intimidation, all the stuff that come with this, which is why I think, in this moment, it's so important to highlight the contagious nature of victory and the campaigns that are winning, but also the companies that are doing bad things.
Yeah, I think that was the most aggravating part of what got said by Senator Graham. To hear him talk about it, the National Labor Relations Act is just fine. It's all working intact. Everybody's got their rights. People get contracts if they so choose. When we all know for decades that's not been true at all. We know that it's broken. We know the system's broken. That the act's got to be reformed. We need things like the PRO Act or its predecessor proposals to fix it. And we're not going to get good jobs and less inequality in this country until that's true.
Now, one of the things I thought was interesting, and I don't want you to talk bad about one of the other panelists, but the argument against the PRO Act was, and I forget the woman's name, but she was from the Heritage Foundation. What you expect, you expect the Heritage Foundation to be against workers, and I fully understand that. But, having companies, sign neutrality agreements and allow workers to vote their conscience, I guess in her opinion was a bad idea because it's the company's responsibility or it would harm the workers from a company. I don't remember her whole argument, but the whole thing was it would be bad for workers if companies didn't harass them and let them know that unions are bad. That was the basic premise of her thought. And I'm going, that's interesting gymnastics. Congratulations. I'm glad you get paid a lot to dream that kind of stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, she had the classic, what we call yo-yo rap. That is, you're on your own, yo-yo. Everybody's better off if they fend for themselves, if they just work a little harder, if they just suck up more to the boss, if they just, fill in the blank. Collective action is not the right response. That's not the way to promote general prosperity. Don't get near that union because it's not an individualistic tool. And I just think that history never proves that true.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if unions didn't work, if they were so ineffective, why would Bezos be spending millions of dollars? Why would Amazon be spending so much? Why would corporate America spend all this money on union busters to do this kind of stuff? You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're here with Greg Leroy. Greg is the executive director of Good Jobs First. Their website, goodjobsfirst.org. We'll get links out on social media. I can check out the incredible work that they do. You guys, one of the things that you do, and I think is so important, is you follow the money. You follow where our tax dollars go and how much of it these big corporations are putting in their pockets. And this is where I think it's important for average everyday working stiffs like me to go, look, I'm not anti-business. I want the mom and pops on Main Street to do real well. I struggle with these conglomerates who have such outweighed power, like the Amazons, like the Walmarts, like the Starbucks, these giant behemoths who, inflict their power on the rest of us. I want them held accountable. And it's the money that we give them, our tax dollars. I think that's the way that we can try and reel them back in. And it's a lot, isn't it? I mean, we give them a lot, don't we?
We do. I mean, the estimates run from between 60 and $90 billion a year that states and cities and counties give away to companies in the name of economic development. There's a large body of evidence. Most of that money is wasted. In most cases, companies, a vast majority of cases, maybe 94% of the time, companies would do what they did anyway without the incentives. We know that the program rules have gotten so loose that they're really just kind of gimmies. They're just kind of automatic things that companies get for asking for them. There's money laying around on the tables, and companies are grabbing the money laying on the tables, essentially.
Yeah. And this is that beggar thy neighbor economic development. We've talked about this in the past.
Right.
These companies know that there's a sugar jar out there, and they've got their face nose deep in it because, hey, I'm going to get mine. And this is where I think is important, and this is where this hearing I think is important. And I think the president is on the right path of, okay, if we're going to give you all this sweetener, we're going to load your pockets up with our money. It's got to benefit us somehow. These jobs have got to be at least materialize. I mean, I look at the Foxconn deal. They told us how many, thousands, 13,000 jobs. They're a couple hundred, maybe 100 at best. There've got to be tangible goods for we the people, we the working people, and those jobs better got to be good jobs, not just Mick jobs. They got to be actually good jobs with good benefits, retirement security, health security, a future. They got to be union jobs, in my view. And to say, hey, neutrality. That should be the minimum of what we ask, or at least that's my thought. I'm curious yours.
I think that's right. We've said forever at Good Jobs First. It's on our website. Unionization is economic development. Unionization is the way we get rising living standards, the way we get less inequality, the way we get less poverty. Um, it's those charts correlating the decline in union density with the rise in inequality. They're exactly right. That's the problem. And we have low union density because we have the most hostile laws of any industrial democracy enabling people to form a new union. If we had modern laws like other industrial democracies, we'd have higher union density and less inequality and less poverty, period.
Yeah, because I say, and I've said it a bunch of times, I think inequality is one of the biggest problems we have in this country. We've got a lot, but mass inequality, economic inequality is, I would put at the top of the list of problems that we have. Because look, the gap between the rich and the poor, and the ultra wealthy and everybody else is growing larger and larger. I mean, we're right back in the Gilded Age. We've got our robber barons, we've got Musk and Bezos and Gates and the rest of them, and then there's all the rest of us who are just trying to get by. And I don't think it's too much to ask to say, look, we're going to make these jobs good jobs. They're going to be union jobs, and they're going to be the kind our grandparents' generation built the most prosperous working class in history on. I don't think that's too much, do you?
No, I think that's our imperative. That's what we belong trying to do. That's why we need to reform labor law to make that possible.
And also our procurement and the money that we give away. Because here's the part. I think we should be limiting how much CEOs put in their pocket. I think we should be limiting how much stock buyback money they can use. The fact that a company is going to, this drives me insane. The fact that a company is going to go, hey, I got $2 billion. What should we do with this $2 billion is just laying around that we got all these tax breaks from? Let's just buy our stock back because I can think of nothing better to do with this money. Not going to give raises to my employees, not better health care, not better retirement, not better equipment, not invest in new technologies, not new plants, nothing better but to give it to rich people is insane to me, Greg.
And the same thing is true of subsidies, right? We've documented $4.2 billion in subsidies given to Amazon alone. Before that, it was Walmart. Walmart was in retail. 90% of their warehouses and many, many hundreds of their stores were not only subsidized with economic development tax breaks, but also challenged property tax assessments. They want to chisel down on their property tax rates. This retail space is full of history of companies gorging at the public trough.
And it should be us. And this is where I implore my working class listeners, contact your representatives. Every tax dollar we give to these big companies have to come with strings attached. Because here's the part of it, Greg. These big companies, you know what they can do? They can not take it.
Right.
Seems simple to me. Either you agree to what we're asking, we'll give you money, we'll invest in your company, but we want something for our investment. And that investment should be, here's a list. If you don't like our terms, you can go anywhere else and get money from anybody else. I think that's fair, don't you?
I do. I mean, we go further and say let's just rewrite the rules to say the big boys don't qualify. Once you're beyond a certain size, once you're beyond a certain sales level or employment size, you're okay. You don't need help anymore. You've flown the coop. Let's keep our resources available for the small companies like the local retailers that you mentioned, like startups, like small manufacturing companies that are trying to figure out niches to stay onshore. Let's reward the good actors in the economy who really have valid needs.
I like that much better. In fact, that's the way we're going to go from now on, because that's a better idea. No more money for Amazon. And this is where, even as Sean O'Brien, the president of the Teamsters, was saying we shouldn't give money to these big companies. Maybe we need to get him on the show and get him to amend that statement, say no more money for these big companies. You're right. We need to be helping the job creators at the bottom, the folks who are helping in our communities. I like that idea better.
Amazon's a job destroyer. Let's remember the rise of e-commerce, of which Amazon is 40 or 50%, is the reason why we're destroying our bricks and mortar retail jobs. In these same years, when you've seen the rise of e-commerce in recent years, we've had record numbers of store closures. So you're just churning jobs. You're dislocating retail clerks and storage people, and you're creating, but you're just moving the jobs into warehouses, and in many cases, dangerous, sped up warehouses.
Yeah, and that came out too. I mean, they're leading the industry. They're leading the industry in injuries. I guess that's something to be proud of if that's your goal, to churn people. I mean, they got 150% turnover rate. Why not? Last question I've got for you, out of this hearing, which again, I hope we're going to get links out so people can watch. I hope everyone does, because I think it's an important piece of political theater that folks should pay attention to. What's the message that you think people should take away when they're done watching this?
When it comes to corporate welfare, the only way we will get Amazon out of the public trough is if people hold their public officials accountable and say, quit giving money to a company that has to build all these warehouses because that's their business plan. Quit giving money to companies that are going to do this stuff anyway, build the warehouses anyway.
And they were going to build them where they were going to build them, because it's all about location, location, location. It's not about tax rates. It's not about anything else. It's about location, location, location. But we used to know that, at least until the lobbyists got a hold of our legislatures. But
Yes,
Greg,
amen.
I appreciate the time. I appreciate the work. Great testimony. I look forward to having you back again real soon.
Thanks, Rick. Great to be with you.
Good stuff. Our good friend Greg Leroy. Make sure you check out his website, goodjobsfirst.org. He's the executive director there at Good Jobs First. Amazing stuff. If you want to check out how much money that we're giving away to these corporate America criminals, I'll put it there. The trough, they got a subsidy tracker you should check out. You will be, like me, outraged, as you should be. Gonna take a quick break. Right back after this. If you're just joining us, make sure you grab the podcast. Never miss a moment. Share with your friends, and also, share, like, subscribe. Back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people on the talk.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1972. That was the day that employees at the Farrah Manufacturing Company went out on strike. The company was one of the top producers of men's and boys' pants in the country, and the second largest employer in El Paso, Texas. The majority of workers were Chicano. More than 80% were women. These workers worked long hours for low wages and were required to meet a high quota demand. In the late 1960s, some of the male employees began to discuss their working conditions and what they could do to change things. One employee remembered the early days of organizing sometimes happened after softball games between the teams of workers from the different departments in the plant. We'd sit around after the game and talk about these things and the union. Men working in the cutting room voted to affiliate with the Amalgamated Clothing Workers of America. Workers from the San Antonio plant came to El Paso to support the union effort. These workers were fired. In response, 500 El Paso workers walked off the job. They demanded the right to have a union. Soon, more than 3,000 Farrah employees went out on strike. The strike cause won the support of the Roman Catholic bishop in El Paso, who supported a boycott against Farrah pants. The AFL-CIO called for a boycott. The campaign against Farrah soon spread across the country. Even though the company brought in scab replacement labor, the effort to get a union continued. The fight wore on until March of 1974, when the National Labor Relations Board found in favor of the employees who had been fired. Unionization had come to Farrah. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting teamsters1932.org/organize to start today. Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Check out our website, thericksmithshow.com. Questions, comments, something on your mind, email me, rick at thericksmithshow.com. Quick shout out to the governor of Minnesota. This is, Tim Walz, good on you, man. Last week they signed a plan to distribute some $500 million to 650,000 frontline hero workers These are the healthcare workers. These are the grocery store employees. These are the people the essential heroes. You remember them, the essential heroes who helped us get through the pandemic. All of the folks who had to show up. They're going to, in Minnesota, they're going to use some of the money that they got from the American Rescue Plan to give out checks to all of those frontline heroes. They're expected to get about $750 a piece. Going to help in this time. But hey, as a thank you, hey, you helped us make it through. If corporate America didn't help you, if corporate America didn't reward you for being the heroes that we know you are, here's a little bit of something. And look, $750 ain't much, but it is something, and I give Tim Walz credit for that. Something I think a lot of states should be considering doing. Pretty simple. Real quick, I got an email from Anthony from Colton, California, listening on KCAA. He sent me this. He said, Rick, I heard, he said, he wrote hard. I heard you talk up the union drive at Amazon and seriously don't understand why you or anyone else would be advocating paying someone else to represent you to your employer. I see Amazon running a campaign calling it do without dues. Explain to me why you think paying dues is a good idea. I am not being a blank here. I really want to hear your explanation. The real quick explanation, in my lifetime, I've been a union member my entire life, over 30 years. And in those 30 years, I've probably spent about $20,000 in dues over that course of the years. And in that time, I've received superior wages well in excess of what my non-union counterparts would have gotten, anywhere between 18 and 30% higher wages. So just that alone pays for it. The best healthcare benefits that are out there. In fact, I've got friends in Congress who are jealous of the healthcare that I get, that I don't pay for. Now, my contemporaries, my non-union contemporaries, they pay for their health insurance out of their pocket. That is a massive savings. So for that $50 a month that I pay in union dues, I not only get superior wages, but I get the health care benefit that our union negotiated. Also, I get paid vacation, I get paid time off, I get the dignity and respect of job security, all down the list. All of that. I get a say in my working conditions, all of that. But more importantly, I don't get slammed with a whole bunch of harassment by a company with infantile kind of slogans like be a doer, not a doer, or do it without dues. I don't have any of that stuff. I don't have, like Delta did, telling their people, you could get a game council for your kids or take your kids to a baseball game instead of paying union dues. No, I can still do that. I can do all of those things because I do have superior wages and I have health security. So when my daughter broke her arm, you know what I didn't think about? I didn't think about how I was going to pay for it. I thought about how am I going to get my daughter to the quickest hospital to get her the help that she needed. That's what I thought about, Anthony. For me, it is a no-brainer, and I wish I could get the kind of return on investment that I get for my $50 dues dollars. I wish I could get that out of every dime I've got. Just my thoughts. Thanks for the email, Anthony. Appreciate it. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you've got any questions, love to hear them. Also, if you missed any of today's program, make sure you download the podcast.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
We've talked AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. The new week is not bringing a fresh start on Wall Street. Investor worries about interest rate hikes are being compounded by worries about the economy in China. Bankrate.com's Greg McBride says this may not be a short-term concern.
The bigger concern among investors is if the cost of money, interest rates, has to go up as much as it looks like it's going to need to in order to tame inflation, might that topple the economy into recession?
Investors are worried China's renewed virus restrictions could hurt the economy. Sources tell the AP Democrats on Capitol Hill want to boost President Biden's proposed $33 billion Ukraine package to nearly $40 billion. A House vote could happen as early as tomorrow. Today at the White House, the president signed another Ukraine relief bill.
The cost of the fight is not cheap, but caving to aggression is even more costly. That's why we're staying in this.
Russian President Vladimir Putin didn't announce any steps today to expand the war in Ukraine, including to other countries, in his speech marking the end of World War II. Samples taken from 3 American tourists who died at a resort in the Bahamas under mysterious circumstances have been sent to a lab in the U.S. Bahamas Police Commissioner Paul Roll says he doesn't want to speculate what happened.
They were seen by the doctor the night before, and that would have been around 11, and they were discovered the next morning.
A fourth person was airlifted to a hospital in Florida and is in serious condition. The Washington Post won the Pulitzer Prize in Public Service Journalism for its coverage of the Capitol riot. A special citation was also awarded to journalists of Ukraine for courage, endurance, and commitment during the war. A new AP NORC poll shows about 1 in 3 adults believe an effort is underway to replace U.S.-born Americans with immigrants for electoral gains. Those views mirror swelling anti-immigrant sentiment around the country. This is AP News.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you.